It's not my thing. Who has time for that stuff?
5 minutes.
Hi, good evening. Welcome, everybody.
Hello, welcome.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Okay, here we go. We'll get started. Okay, so. Place here. So my marker is on Hayes. That's correct, right? On Hay. And there's also a tour here, but I don't know. Did we read the tour up to Hay?
Then we start. I'm not sure.
Like the first one, we covered like 4 of them or whatever it was. Okay, anyway, let's see the tour. Hayala shalosh kanafot. Yeah, probably we didn't do that. You're right. Okay. Yeah, it starts like this. Hayala. I'm sorry. No. What? Hayala, and then right. Shalosh. I see Abba. So it looks like I'm on the wrong spot. 1 second. Yeah. Where is it? Can you tell me where it is? Just a minute. Can't see it for some reason. Oh, it's in the beginning. Okay. Okay, got it. Okay. Right. So it says like this, right? Hayala shalosh kenafot ve'asa behem gimel tzitziot. Right. That's the one.
Mhm.
So he had 3 corners. He made 3 tzitziot. I think we read this one, but anyway, read it again.
No, actually, no.
Is that the one? No. And then? Right, that's the one, right? What you're reading, that's the one.
Yeah.
Okay. So it says, right, that he had 3 corners and he made 3 tzitziot on those 3 corners.
Mhm.
Okay. Veshuv asala kanaf revi, and then he made a 4th corner. We did this already, we read it. Ve'asa gam bo tzitzit pesula. So he did made tzitzit also, right? Why is it pasul? Because it was done in the wrong order.
Mhm.
This is called in halacha ta'aseh v'lo min ha'asui. What does that mean? First, you got to make the beged that's chayav in tzitzit, that's obligated in tzitzit, and then to put the tzitzit, and not the other way around. This is the problem is that here he did the 4th one in the wrong order, right? He reversed the order of that, so that's the problem.
Mm.
Okay, so this is the reason why it's pasul. So now let's see the Bet Yosef. So it says Bet Yosef, hayal shalosh kanfot, right? All that. So it says, right, one line down. Gam zeh sham. So over there it says Amar Rava. It's on the Gemara. Amar Rava, Amar Rab Sechora. He says in the name of this rabbi, Amar Rav Huna, in the name of Rav Huna, Hitil lebalat shalosh. Let's say he put on the 3-cornered one, v'shlima le'arba, In other words, first he put tzitzit on a 3-corner garment, and then he completed it to 4. Pesula, it's pasul, right? This is what we're talking about. Why is it? Because it's done in the wrong order, right? That's the problem. As we said, Piresh Rashi explains, right? What does this mean? He put 3 tzitziot on a 3-cornered garment, and then he put on them keren revi'i. He put a 4th corner. Right? The problem is that now with the 4th corner became obligated. Before it was not obligated. So all those 3 tzitziot that he did before didn't do the job because it was pre-done. It was pre-done. That's the problem, right? The order was wrong here. So that's the problem. Pasula, it's pasul. Right? The shalosh harishonot asuyot mitchila. So it says the first three that were done in the beginning, shalok mitzvot, that wasn't proper because he wasn't obligated at that time. It didn't have the 4th corner yet, right? And then when he comes and does the 4th one, right? So it's in the wrong order, as we said, right? This is the problem. So therefore, it's pasul. By the way, there's a similar concept and also on the laws of sukkah. Did you ever hear about this? Right, exactly. First you put the schach and then you do the walls. It's the wrong order. Same thing over there, right? So here also the same thing. Yeah.
In that case, Rabbi, you just have to pick it up and put it back on the schach after you finish the wall.
Yeah, you gotta like redo it. You gotta redo the thing, Yeah. First put the walls and then do some maneuvering, right? Pick it up, put it down, right? To reposition it.
By the way,
Yeah.
do you have to pick up the whole thing at once, or you can just do like?
No, you can do like little by little. Yeah. That's what it says.
Everything?
Huh?
Or the majority? You have to do the whole
Yeah,
thing?
in general, that's what you gotta do. You gotta do the whole schach, to make it kosher.
The whole
Not
thing,
just a little
by
bit.
there.
Not just a little bit, right. You gotta do the whole thing. Okay, but you can do by section, Move your ladder around, right? Your ladder goes around. You go here, go there. Right? Have some fun. Enjoy. Okay, so that's that, right? So we're done with that tour with Hay. So now we're going to Bet Yosef. I'm sorry, we just did Bet Yosef, right? Wait, did we do Bet Yosef?
We just did. So
Yeah.
Shulchan Aruch?
So we're doing Shulchan Aruch, yes. Shulchan Aruch, Hay. When I first saw this concept, when I was learning, like, younger, when I was younger, Tasev Elo Min Asui, I was like, what is this? I couldn't grab it, I just couldn't grasp it. I was like, so hard to grasp it.
Why would it matter, right?
Huh? Not because of why it mattered. I just didn't understand the concept. Like what was the concept there? Some things you have to do a few times, several times to grasp it. Once is not enough. Okay, so here we go. We're going to Hey. So it says Shulchan Aruch, יש אומרים שצריך לעשות ציציות מצבע טלית. No, this is not the one. Second. No, I'm in the wrong place. I'm sorry. We're already in Siman Yud, and I'm doing Tet. Okay. So again, right? Hayula Gimel Kanafot ve'asa behem Gimel tzitziot. It had 3 corners, and he put 3 tzitziot. Veshuv asa lahem kanaf dalet, and then he put the 4th corner. Now it becomes obligated in tzitzit. The problem is the ones that he put before were too early, predated, right? It was a predated thing. So therefore, that's why it's pasul, pasula, mishum ta'aseh v'lo min asui, right? That's the problem. Okay, good. So we're done with that. Let's go to Vav. Now we're going to read the Torah, right? Haytam me'ubat ve'kefala. So it says like this. הייתה מרובעת וכפלה, right? It was square. The beged was square, but he rounded it, right? He rounded it. He cut off the corners, whatever, right? He did something there. כתב הרמב"ם, אין מטילים ציציות על כנפי ה... So says the Rambam, you can't put tzitziot on the corners there. כמו שהיא כפולה, the way it is now, right? When it's folded. One second, maybe in the right place. Yeah, okay, one more time. הייתה מרובעת וכפלה. It was square, and he folded it, right? Right, I'm sorry, I didn't read it right. Again, right? So it was square and he folded it. כתב הרמב"ם, אין מטילים ציציותיו על כנפיה. You can't put now tzitziot on the corners, the Rambam says, כמו שהיא כפולה, when it's folded.
He's not wearing it?
No, for sure he's not wearing it. He just, he's trying to make it kosher, right?
He folds it in half.
He folded it, right? He folded it, and he says you can't do it like that. Let's go on and we'll get the whole picture, right? So it says, right, שהיא כפולה, אלא אם כן תפרע כולה. So he says, the Rambam, the only way you can do this is by sewing it up, the whole thing, right? We seem to contradict what we said yesterday, right? We said that sewing doesn't make it kosher. Now all of a sudden the Rambam says, it seems to make it kosher, the sewing.
So he wants to patur the mitzvah of Tzitzit? That's what he's trying to do?
I don't know, but that's not the issue, right? The issue is not what he wants. The issue is what he's doing. I mean, that's what we care about. So he basically folded it, right? And Rambam says you can't do it like that. So what does that mean? You got to sew it first, because why? Because when you just fold it, it's not permanent. It's temporary. So it's not really something stable there.
I see. So
You know what I mean?
The material was too big. He folded it in half.
Something like that, whatever it
and he
was.
wants to make
Yeah.
fold the two pieces into one corner. And
Something like that.
Right?
Yeah, whatever he means to say, But anyway, let's go on, right? So it says, "Va'afilu miruach echad," right? So it says Rambam, even one direction is good enough. You don't have to do both directions or all directions, right? I mean, interesting. Okay. So, I'm beginning to see what's going on here, right? My brain is processing this. So what happened was like this, right? It was a square talit, right? Whatever, beged, right? Square. He folded it and made it into a smaller square, right?
Yeah.
So, or rectangle, whatever it is, right? This is the same, it doesn't matter. So he made it into a smaller square or rectangle. So now you can't put tzitzit because it's not a permanent situation here. That's the whole thing, right? Unless you sew it. So Rambam says if you sew it from one direction on one side, that's good enough. You don't have to sew up all the sides. Which, by the way, that would mean like to sew up 3 sides,
Right.
Because the 4th side is already folded, so nothing to do over there. So says the Rambam, you can't do that, right? So yeah, it makes sense. Okay, so then he says, Medashon Adoni Rosh Zal, but he says, according to the Rosh, Rosh seems to say it's obligated, even though he didn't sew it. Interesting. That is very interesting. But how could the Rosh say that, right? It seems to contradict what we said yesterday for sure. Right? And also just, I don't see the logic of it, right? Like, it's just a temporary situation.
Could
Okay,
be
whatever.
wearing it temporarily.
I'm sorry?
Could be wearing it like this temporarily.
Right, yeah, he is. Yeah, it's true. Yeah.
And then take off the tzitzit.
Yeah.
Unfold it and put it back on.
Yeah, it's weird. I don't know what to tell you. Okay, anyway, right, let's see. So it says, is that the end of it, by the way? That's the end of it. Of Vav?
I will ship it there at the end.
Okay. So the last word is klal. See that?
Yeah, it's not the end of it.
It's not, so I'm going on, right, from there. Hayala arba tzitziot, write that one. If you have 4 tzitziot, be'arba kanfot, and 4 corners, ve'asala od acherot, and now he did more corners, right? Mechatach et harishonot, and he cut the first ones. Oh, that's what he does, right? he first makes more corners and then he cuts off the original ones. What a brainchild this guy is, right? So yeah. וחתך את הראשונות כשרה באחרונים. So he says it's kosher with the last ones. Okay. Kosher with the last ones. There's more?
Yeah.
Okay, so it goes on. והרמב"ם ז"ל כתב, Rambam says, הטיל ציצית על ציצית. Oh, this is interesting, right? He put tzitzit on tzitzit. אם מתכוון לבטל הראשונות. If you want to bottle the first one by putting the second one, חותך הראשונות, he cuts off the first one, כשרה באחרונות. And it's kosher by the last ones. So I didn't read it right. One more time. והרמב"ם ז"ל כתב, Rambam wrote, כי הטיל ציצית על ציצית. אם מתכוון לבטל ראשונות, if you want to bottle the first one, חותך הראשונות הוא כשרה. He cuts the first ones and it's kosher. I'm sorry?
Underneath the one that.
We'll see. ואם מתכוון להוסיף, and if his intention was to add more, right? In other words, that's already a bigger problem. You know why? Because it's Baal Tosif. You're not allowed to add to the mitzvot. In other words, each corner needs one tzitzit. You're putting two. You're adding to the mitzvot. That's not good, right? Baal Tosif. So he says, אף על פי שחתך אחד משתיהן, even though he cut one of them, פסולה. Right? It's פסול. ואדוני אבי ראש ז"ל לא חילק. Rosh says the same thing, right? These two cases. No difference. Let's read it one more time, okay? So it says like this, right? והרמב"ם ז"ל כתב. הטיל ציצית על ציצית. He put tzitzit on tzitzit, right? So what does that mean? You know, every tzitzit has that hole, right? So he put one more there.
Oh, I see.
You know what I mean?
I was thinking about the garments.
Okay. So yeah, the garment is the same thing. It has a hole, right? It has to have a hole. So, right, if he by putting on the first one, the second one, I'm sorry, he meant to nullify the first one. He has to cut the first one, kosher, no problem. But if his intention was to add, right, which is already forbidden because you're putting too much there, right? Even though he cut one of them in the end, pesula is pasul. Why? Because you know that second tzitzit is no good. Baal tosif. Okay. So Rosh was not mechalek. So what does that mean? It seems like the Rosh is saying that they're both kosher.
You can leave it? Both?
Yeah. No. I'm saying in both cases they're kosher. You have to cut it off, but in both cases they're kosher. Understand?
What was the second case, Rabbi? Leaving this, adding the second one.
It's all his intention, right? In the first case, his intention was to nullify the first one. In the second case, his intention was to add.
He's cutting it afterwards. The first one.
Yeah, same thing.
But his intention was to temporarily add.
I'm sorry? His intention was to add, so therefore he added to the mitzvah. He's not allowed to add to the mitzvah. He already went, he made a prohibition there. So therefore, the second one is not a mitzvah at all. Pasul. You know what I mean? So now that you cut the first one, what's going on, right? You're leaving in this one. This one is no good because when you put it, it was a tosefet. It was an addition.
So he was gonna wear it like this, then cut it.
No, it's not a matter of a while. You know, even if he does it right away, it doesn't make any difference. Yeah. Okay, so let's see. That's the end of the tour. So we're going to go to Bet Yosef. So says Bet Yosef, Hayta merubat v'kefala, right? So we have like several cases here. In one halacha. You see where that is in Bet Yosef? So it says it was square and he's folded it, right? It says Sham. It's over there in the Gemara. Mem Aleph Amud Aleph, right? In the Menachot. Tan Rabbanan. Right, the rabbis taught talit kefula and chayavet b'tzitzit. Right, they said if it's folded talit, it's obligated with tzitzit. Rabbi Shimon poter. Rabbi Shimon says patur. So it seems to be like the same machloket between what we saw in the Rishonim there, right? And, yeah. Okay, interesting. B'shavin she'im kifala utfara, they both agreed that if he folded it and then he sewed it, shechayevet, it's chayav. Tifara pshita. So Gemara asks, what if he sewed it? It's pashut, but what's the chidush? In other words, it's already a permanent situation.
Right.
So what's the chidush over here? Right. So lo tzricha. Gemara answers lo tzricha de nakta besiche. So says Gemara, it's only relevant in the case where he did siche, right? So Rashi's going to explain what that means, right? Perish Rashi says, Perish Rashi, talit kfula, we're talking about a folded talit, shaita aruka kishtayim ukfi kafala. So it was very long, and he folded it to make it smaller. But Rabbi Shimon Potter's, sheim tifshat nitzet tzitziot be'emtzaita. Oh, so right, good point, right? Inti pashet. So Rabbi Shimon says it's patur. Why? Because if it opens up, the tzitzit will be in the wrong place. You know, it's going to be in the middle of the beged instead of being on the corners. You know what I mean? Pashut, right? She'im tefara chayevet. If he folds it, it's chayevet. He's liable. He's obligated. The loti pashet, because it's not going to open anymore, right? Once you sew it, it won't open. That's the whole thing. The nakta besiche. So what does this mean? Tefira rechava. Oh, so Rashi explains, right? What is siche? He did like he sewed it up with wide stitches. Okay, wide stitches. Why does that matter if it's wide? It's like more like amateurish, you know. I think that's the thing. It's not professional.
Just something to hold it.
Yeah, just not really something, like the work of a seamstress, Not exactly like that. Okay, so I think we'll see. So it says in Yosef, and it says in Yosef, katuv kifala. It says he folded it shaita aruka because it was long. No, it was very long. Kishtayim too much. Rawila, it was like double what he wanted, right? The size. Then rawila lavsha, so it's too big to wear like that. It's more like a sheet, like those Indian guys, right? Too big. Ela imken, unless right. Unless you fold it, you're not going to be able to wear it like that. Just too big. Right? But Rabbi Shimon Potter. So Rabbi Shimon Potter's to have a leg kebeged sheno ra'ui le'rebisha. So Rabbi Shimon says you can't wear it like that. When it's like this. It's not stable. It's going to open up like that. The shavim she'im tifara. So they both agree about these opinions in the Gemara that if he sewed it the achar shekafala. He sewed it after he folded it, chayevet, then he's liable. Why is that? Because now it's possible to use it like that, it's usable. So it says, the Rif and the Rosh, Katvu Braita Zo, they bought this Braita, but they didn't pasken who's the halacha, right? From these two opinions. So he says, why did they paskin? They couldn't figure it out. What was it? They got a mental block. What happened over there, right? Not exactly, right? That's not the point, right? So what happened was that he says the reason they didn't paskin is because you figured it out yourself. In other words, halacha is like the first opinion, Tanakama, because that's the way it's implied there. Whatever. That's why the Rosh said, the Tur said about his father, it seems like the Rosh is obligates. What does that mean? Obligate. It seems like, because it doesn't really say that for sure. It seems so, but he didn't really paskin. Even though he didn't sew it. The Gam Rabbeinu Yerucham, also it says Rabbeinu Yerucham, Katav Talit Kfula. He wrote like this, right? If you have a talit which is folded, chayevet b'tzitzit, obligated with tzitzit. Afilu lo tefara, even if he didn't sew it. So you see from there what he goes like the Rosh, right? He's a Talmid of the Rosh. He goes like the Rosh, very, very natural.
Wait, that's the first opinion in the Gemara too.
Right. So they both have what to rely on, for sure, right? No question. Aval Rambam shkatav Perek Aleph, but the Rambam who said Perek Aleph And kofrin et talit. It's like this, Rambam. We don't fold the talit l'shnaim to two. Umatilin tzitzit al kanafeh, and then put corners on the corner, tzitzit on the corners. Kemoshehi, right, like it is now. Kefula, right, folded. Unless tafra kula, unless he sewed it up all of it, he says. Even from one side, he says, right?
Yeah, but if you put the tzitzit in, that's holes in it. That's putting the two sides, right? And you put the whole.
Yeah, I'm sorry. What was I saying? What was I saying?
It's not gonna hold it itself.
Huh?
The tzitzit, right? The fold.
Ah. Oh, I see what you mean. Well, I see what you mean, but probably the way he did it is that he put the hole only on one side. You know what I mean? He didn't put the hole on both sides. Anyway, whatever, right? That's just a matter of semantics, but right, the picture, how to get the picture, but so Rambam says even if you sew one direction, it's good. So it must be that he holds halacha ke Rabbi Shimon. He holds like Rabbi Shimon, not like the Tanakama, right? Why? What's the reason why Pascha's like Rabbi Shimon? Usually we go like the Tanakama. You mean what? That's like the majority. Whatever it says stam is the majority. Whatever it says in the name of one rabbi, it's a minority opinion. So why would you want to Pascha like Rabbi Shimon? Because he's a Kabbalist? No, that's not the reason why. Right? That's not the reason why. So, because there's a story in the Gemara that proves that, right? Or shows that, displays that, right? Right? He was in the house of this person. He saw that he was wearing a folded talit, right? So he was wearing a folded talit, and he put tzitzit on it, right? Kefila ifshita, and then it opened up. And then it was by his head, whatever. So this is not the corner anymore, right? The corner has to be on the bottom. What's it doing by your head? Or the head of the beggar, whatever it was, right? So now Rashi explains, right? The language is a little bit difficult to understand. So Rashi explains, ifshit, what does that mean? So what happened was, right, that the way it happened, now, since it opened up, the tzitzit can turn out to be in the middle of the beged, which is not what we want. We want on the corner, right? As we said, right, this is the problem. When it opens up, it winds up in the middle, like this. Okay? So, שהייתה רחבה כפליים בקומתו, והייתה כפולה והכפל מוטל על ראשו. So he says that folded place was on his head. ושנר הראשון של טלית למטה, לאחוריו. So basically the way it turned out is that, like, some tzitzit is on his head and some of them is on the bottom. So that's not the way it's supposed to be. ושני ציציות היו בקרנות, and two tzitzit were in the corners, האחד in one corner, ושניים בשני ראשי הכפל. And the other two were on the folded side, right, where the fold is. So מקום שערכו כולה, כשנפשטה, and then when it opened up, right, this whole thing, היה חבוי כולו בה, he was totally covered in it. נמצאו שתי ציציות של כפל באמצע הטלית. So then what happened was the tzitziot now turned out to be in the middle of the talit, which is not supposed to be there, right? Can I get the Rosho Shel Rabbi? And it was on his head of Rav. Right, so it turned out to be a bad situation there. Right? Tzitzit on your head, can you imagine? That is funny. Lav Hainu Kanaf. So he says, right, that's not the corner, he says. What's going on here, right? You can't wear it like that, he tells him, the rabbi. Right? Your head is the corner? What? The Habam Saitam thing, because they're in the middle of a beged. Cannot be like that. So Adkan, that's the way he explains it, right? So he says the Rambam learns from this Gemara. When he told him that's not the corner, the Katav Rachamana, the Torah wrote Torah wrote that the corner. That's not the corner that the Torah said about, was talking about. He meant to say that even before it opens up, Nameh, also there, since it's destined to open like that, in other words, it's very likely to open. Lav Hainu Kanaf, that's not really a corner. It's not called a corner. A corner has to be something stable, not something that plays around all day. Changes here, goes there. Right? That's what the Torah wrote. The Torah was talking about a regular, normal corner, right? Not like this flippy flop corner. You know what I mean? That's the whole idea. Okay, good. If not so, he should have said, right? He should have said, don't open it, right? So if the whole problem was that it opened, he should have just told him, don't open it, just like wrap yourself with it without opening it. That's not what he told him, right? Keshehi, just like the way it is, kfula. And since he's done him like this in the beginning, when he's wearing a folded talit, he told him it's not really a corner, like it's written in the Torah, because he wanted to wait till it opened, and then he wanted to attack him, right there, get him, when it opens up, because that's where he's vulnerable. You know what I mean?
If the fold opens up,
yeah.
What's the problem? He just put it, fold it up like again, and it's still a valid.
Right, but it seems like he wanted to open it. I don't know, whatever it was. But anyway, the point is, right, that doesn't once it opens, doesn't But the truth is, there's also a way to look at it even before it opens is no good, right? As we said, it's still no good because it's not stable. So anyway, right? That's why it comes out in the end of the Gemara. This story that it brings over there. He put a different cloak, right? Says, what, do you think the tzitzit is an obligation on the man? It's not. It's an obligation on the talit, not the man. So what are you doing by doing that? You're not doing anything. So he says, go and put it, whatever. Yeah. And if it's so, why did you have to put a different cloak? He should have folded it. If that solves the problem, right? And fold it up and cover yourself with it. But that doesn't help you to fold it because it's still a problem. You know what I mean? Because it's not stable, as we said, right?
I had a question about what you just said about the mitzvah is on the tzit itself, not on the person.
Right. That's how we hold, by the way. What that means is that, it's like you are not obligated to put tzitzit. The beged that you put is obligated. In other words, if it's four corners, you know what I mean? You yourself are not obligated to put four corners. But if you have four corners, the beged obligates to the tzitzit. Got it? Yeah. In other words, just like, I'll explain to you what I mean to say. Okay, like for instance, you are like not okay. You wake up in the morning. Okay, are you obligated to put tzitzit in the morning? No. The only reason you have to put tzitzit is because you have a four-corner garment. So it's the garment that obligates the tzitzit, not you. As opposed to tefillin, right? Tefillin is an obligation on you. That's something else.
However, if you have a four-corner garment, even if you have tzitzit in it, you're not obligated to put it on.
That's exactly the point. It's not an obligation on you. The beggar is obligated.
But to the same token, if you have a four-corner garment in the closet, which we said before, and you're not going to wear it.
That's something else. But we're talking about you're wearing it. That's the whole point, right? But what obligates it? It's the beggar and not you. It's not on you. It's on the beggar. It's on the beggar that you wear, not on the beggar you don't wear. That's what you mean to say, right?
The occasional mitzvah is separate, right? You have a mitzvah to wear it, to remind yourself.
Right, but you're not commanded to do that. You understand? That's the whole thing. We're not commanded to do that. We're not commanded. Just it's a minhag. We do. Well, nobody's obligated to put talit katan.
What about talit gadol?
That also we're not obligated to do, really, just for the tefillah. You know what I mean? But it's not an obligation on you. It's because of the tefillah, Again, right? Same thing.
But before,
Yeah.
people would do it as it wasn't mitzvah, no?
Because that's the way they dressed. That's the thing, They used to wear talitot. This was like a part of their fashion. It was a part of that's the whole thing, Just like like today, everybody wears a shirt. In those days, everybody wore talit.
Right,
That's the way it was, you know what I mean?
If Hashem wanted
Yeah.
people to wear put the tzitzit for as a reminder,
Yeah.
why would it matter if they have?
Now you're getting into philosophy, right? That's already philosophy. We're talking about halacha, right? That's the halacha, You know what I mean? Philosophy is philosophy. Okay, so right, well, if this hashkafa, all kinds of questions, why did do it? Why is this one? It doesn't really matter in halacha, Here it's a technical issue, technical. You know what I mean? The obligation is on the beggar, it's not on you. So okay, that's the way it is. There are some things, by the way, like that in mitzvot, There are obligations which are on you, and there are obligations which are on the outside, on the object itself. By the way, that's a big sugya in the Talmud in many places. You know what they call that? If you go in the yeshivot, right? They're always talking about this. There's mitzvat chefza and mitzvat gavra. That's exactly the chefza. You know what chefza means? The item. In other words, the item is obligated. Gavra means the person. So there's all kinds of things like this, the Talmud, Is it on you or is it on the item, the mitzvah? You understand? It runs very much the gamut of many mitzvot, this whole thing. Okay, so that's the way it works. All right, let's go. So it says, right, so it goes on to say this whole thing. Why did Rabbi Bar say to him, Zil Ramele, to put it, Lo Havale Lemimar, you should have said, Ela Zil Kefala, you should have just told him to fold it. But Dai Mashma de Sfirale de Halacha Rabbi Shimon. So right, the Rambam sees from there that halacha is like Rabbi Shimon. Dechen pasak benim Yosef. That's the way he passes benim Yosef. It's a deep, reading of the Gemara. It's deep understanding. Uvelokeach also the Lokeach. The halacha Rabbi Shimon, right? The halacha is like Rabbi Shimon. That's the way it is, So you see from there, right, that this is the shita of the Rambam. The halacha is like Rabbi Shimon, and he proves it from this sugya that we just learned now because of a duke in the sugya. The Gemara explains over. Yeah, now he's going to talk about that. By the way, just let's read on for a second, right? Exactly what you're asking. So it says, so it says, right? It's possible. He says that even the Rif and the Rosh that they also agree with this. Interesting, right? In other words, we said, right, that they didn't write what was the halacha, but it's possible that they hold like the Rambam, he says. Right? Let's see why that is. So he says, why didn't they write that what's halacha? Because they want you to learn the sugya like the Rambam did and to figure it out yourself. Right? Huh?
Why would they?
Because they know how smart you are, right? What a clever man you are. We're talking about here, 700 years ago, right? People were on a different level in those days. You know what I mean? So they want you. In other words, for them it was pashut. This thing, the whole thing was pashut, piece of cake, So therefore, they didn't really need to. That's what Maran says. Okay, interesting. So you see from there, right? That what's the direction over here? Direction is obviously we should do like Rabbi Shimon. Why? Because it's possible that even they held that way. Right? So therefore, it seems like it could be that they all agree. Okay, we'll see. Right further on, let's go. So it says Umash Katav Rambam the Betifara Murach Achad. Now what Rambam said, if he sewed it in one direction, Sagi, that's good enough. To put tzitziot al kanafea on the corners. Kemo shehi kfula, when it's folded. Niresh lamadken. Where do you learn this from? That one direction is good enough. So it says lamadken midit parchinan, from what we objected in the Gemara. Amay de Tanya, regarding what it says in the Braita, the shavin sheim kefala. It says over there in the Gemara like this in the Braita. They agree that if he folded it with tefara and sewed it, shechayevet, that's chayevet, right? So Gemara says pshitas, that's pashut. The Shane, and it answers, we already saw this Gemara before. Right? It answers lo tzricha the nakta besiche right? So he says, no, we're talking about a case where he did those wide stitches, whatever, something like that, whatever it was, right? The sover hu zal, so he says, he holds the nakta b'siche, when it says siche, the word siche, hainu tifara ben ruach echad, that means he sewed up on one side, that's the way he learns it. Right? Ename, or alternatively, another way to look at it is kivan de ta'ama de en matilin bat tzitziot. Since the reason is because we don't put tzitziot, kashik kfula. When it's folded, who mishum the mifshit, because it opens up. The kam chuta lehaderesha. So then what happens is, right, that the string is going to be, the tzitzit is going to be by the head. So therefore, as long as it's sewed up in one corner, then there's no concern anymore about that. It's going to wind up like that. Therefore, it's good. To put it when it's folded. So it's mashma from there. The huadin the nakta b'siche. So same thing applies when he right. Right. Same thing applies when he did wide stitches. Right, as we said, wide stitches. Because the Pirash Rashi, like Rashi explained, the tifara stam kamar. Right, he's talking about stam sewing. Even wide sewing. Right, which is, as we said, right, it's not professional. It's like amateur job. Right, this is your mom and pop job, whatever what they call it, right? If we're gonna say that the Rif and the Rosh are paskin like Rabbi Shimon, right? Mashelo katvu, that which they didn't write it explicitly, right? They didn't write that. That which we said, they qualified, right? That if he folded it and sewed it up with the nakta b'siche, and he did wide stitches, because of the story that we just mentioned. Rabbi Nachman, mashma delo kaftinan, ela delo lipshat. The only, so it's mashma from this, it's implied from this sugya that we're only makpid that wide, it shouldn't open altogether, and we don't want that to drop down, and to be in the wrong place. We don't want the tzitzit to be on your head. It's always just this whole thing, right? So it says, so then when he talked about the issue of the wide stitches, came on the lomifshita, since it doesn't open, it holds it, that it should go on your head. Pshita, we should put tzitzit kashik fula. So they says that's where the Rambam learned, right? This halakha, that one direction is enough. There you go. Okay, so now, right, here we go to the punchline, right? Here we go, right? So it's halakha. What's halakha? Kiman the divrei Rambam mevoarim. Since the Rambam is very clear, right? Rabbi Shimon, he passes like Rabbi Shimon. Ve'arif ve'arosh efshar lefaresh librahem, and we can also explain the rif and the rosh. They hold that way too, right? Dachi nami tzfira lehu hachi naktinas. That's how Paskin says, right? The whole mind efshar lema'et b'machloket adif tefeh. This is a very important concept over here in halakha, right? This my Rabbi taught me, by the way, when I was like 22 years old. One of my first Rabbis over here. What is he saying over here, right? We don't really know how the Rif and the Rosh Paskin, right? We're not really sure. But it could be they went like the Rambam. So therefore, better to say they did. Why is that? Because it's always a mitzvah to reduce the machloket when it's possible. You know what I mean? Don't widen the machloket. Try to reduce as much as possible. This is the proper way of learning,
Since there's no certainty on their rules.
Right. There's nobody forcing you to do that. So therefore, try to reduce it as much as possible. And this is a big concept in halakha, by the way. We applied it like in many places, So that's the reason why it says Maran. Therefore, we go like that. So therefore, the halakha is like Rabbi Shimon, right? Okay, very good. Let's go on. So it says Veda tehad pater Rabbi Shimon. You should know, he says that which Rabbi Shimon said is patur, it's exempt. He only meant the ones that are folded, those corners, right? But the ones that are not folded, no problem, right? What's the problem? But the ones that are open, right? When they're open, you have to put tzitzit there. That you got to do. In other words, if you're wearing it, it's got to have tzitzit on those corners. Yeah? What do you think? Well, because you folded it, now it became patur from tzitzit? Who puttered it, right? So that's how the Rambam comes out also. Language Rambam. Katav and kofrin tatalit l'shnayim. Says the Rambam, we don't, right, this is the halacha that he writes. We don't fold up the talit into two. I'm sorry, double, we fold it, right? Fold it up, not into two, right? Fold it. Umatilin tzitzit, right? Double, right? Double. And then put tzitzit al arba kanfeh, then put tzitzit on the four corners as it's folded. That we don't do, right? As we said. Keshik fula, when it's folded. Mashma dafka al arba kanfot. It's mashma from there implies that only on those four corners when it's folded. Keshik fula. In matilin, there we don't put tzitzit. But arba kanfot the pshutin, but the ones that are when it's open, those four corners, matilin, we have to put. That's the way it's mashma in the Rambam. Okay, very good. There you go, right? Let's go on. So he says, Hayala arba tzitziot. That was the first case, right? Then we got like two more here. So it says, Hayala arba tzitziot be arba kanfot. Let's say you have 4 tzitzit on 4 corners. Ve'asala od acharot. So now what do you do? He made 4 corners, right? Four more corners. Right? The chatach et harishonot, and then he cut the first ones. Kshera, it's kosher. The acharot, right? Those last ones make it kosher. So says Maran regarding this, Aha, the Amar Rabba beper katchelet. It's going also in this Gemara. What Rabba said, Menachot Amud Bet. Hitil lebarat shalosh veishlima learba. It says over there, right? He put tzitzit on a 3-cornered garment, and then he made it into 4. Psula, right? We said that's pasul. Tasib v'lo min asui. Mishum tasib v'lo min asui. Uparich, the Gemara asks a question there, objects. Nia minan tasib v'lo min asui. Did we say that? In other words, this concept. In other words, that's how we paskin. We don't. That's not kosher. But didn't Rabbi Zera say hitil lemutelet keshera? But didn't Rabbi Zera say, right? If you put tzitzit already where it was tzitzit there, it's kosher. Amar Rabba. So Rabba answers hashta bebal tosif kamasma kamase lahave matkif. Right. Okay. So right. He says that's a different story. Here we're doing. There you're asking about something else. It's not tasiv v'lo it's bal tosif. You're adding an additional mitzvah, right? As we said in the beginning, that's the problem over there. You're putting one more tzitzit, which is like you're adding tzitzit. You're adding to the mitzvah. You can't do that. Same thing about tefillin, right? You put like 5, compartments instead of 4. Pasul, right? You're not allowed to add to the mitzvot. So same thing over here.
I just don't understand the actual case of the difference. The person is having kavanah to add to the mitzvah, but then he's cutting the first. What was he intended to do?
That's it. That's like you said.
He just added and then cutting?
Right. He said, you know what? I'm going to add first, and then when he cut off, he says, you know what? I'll take this one off. Whatever, right? So, yeah. It doesn't really matter what the circumstances were.
So the intentions, but we also said that his intention was just to replace. He's adding an additional
right.
one.
He wanted to bottle the other one. Right. He wanted to bottle the other one. Yeah.
That's okay.
That's okay. Yeah. Exactly. So, okay. Maaseh lo have matkif, right? Maaseh lo have matkif la rapapa mimai de gavra leosufe kamechaben dilma lebetule kamechaben. So Rapapa asks a question over there, right? How do you know that he's intending to add? Maybe he's intending to bottle it, like we said, right? Maybe that's his intention, right? Ubal tosif leka. So therefore, there's no bal tosif. Bal tosif is only when you're intending to add, But if you're intending to replace it, it's a different story. Okay, so ubal tosif leka mas. Right. So it says ubal tosif leka maseika. There's only maseh. Rashi explains hitil lemutelet. What does that mean? Right, Shayala arba tzitziot. He had 4 tzitziot. Beitila arba acherim. He put 4 more. Right, kshera, it's kosher. Behane bata'eh with the last ones. And even though he took the first ones off, right, the kama'eh, veha hacha deshelol etzorech avdinu beshat asyat umecheshera behu. So he says. He didn't do it for needs, he says, for a need at the time of making it, and therefore it's kosher. Amar Rava, leolam shelo tzorech min asui klina be. So it says Rava, the truth is that when there's no need, we say min asui. We still call that min asui. So it says here it's a different story. Why are we saying that the last ones are kosher? The ka'eh bebal tosif. Here is what talking about something else. We're talking about you're adding another one. You're adding an extra one. Okay. Ki abdinhu velo have maseh. So therefore, it's not called maseh. The over al divrei Torah. So look what it says, right? Since you're transgressing the Torah by adding one, la mikre maseh. That's not called maseh. You didn't do nothing. In other words, when you added the second one, it's like nothing there. You didn't do anything because you're transgressing. Maseh, right? Therefore, when he takes off the first one, right? He havia asyatan. That's making it good. It's good making. But right, aval, you're making the last one. Aval shelol tzorech. But if you don't need it, the balat shalosh. In other words, you have 3 corners. Sheno over alehen. He's not transgressing anything because he's not obligated to 3 corners. Have maseh leakruya tzitzit asuya bepasul. So then you're doing it in the wrong direction, as we said, right, in the wrong order. So therefore, when you finish it, it's the problem of taseh v'lo nasui. That's the ikar, it says. Maaseh ikar. It's more Rashi explained on Rashi. V'hadra kushya deduchte, right? Therefore, the question goes back to its place. V'zeh lashon harosh. This language of the Rosh, he says, itila mutelet kshera, right? Pirosh Rashi. Rashi explains regarding this. Shayula arba kan tzitziot. He had 4 tzitziot. Veitila arba kan acherim, and he put 4 more. Kishra, it's kosher. Behane bata'eh, with the last ones. Ich paskin hu lekamay, if he took off the first ones. V'afagav dehanach lav tzorech avdinu. Even though those were not, there was no need for them. In other words, he already had before, so there was no need. V'shat asya, when he made it. Lishna charina, another way of doing it, another way of saying it. Hitile mutelet. What does that mean? Kishra. With the last ones, it's kosher. Even though when he made the last ones, he didn't battle the first ones. Therefore, comes out that those 3 were not tzitzit. Because he didn't need them. Therefore, when he made the 4th one, and he battled those, the first ones, right? So we don't say that Tasim Inosui. The Mefarish Tama explains the reason. Because there it's talking about Tosif. You're adding more. Lo have maseh. It's not called maseh. Akan leshano. Katav Rabbeinu Agadol Mar Yavuhav. Says Rabbeinu Agadol Mar Yavuhav. Right. Okay, we'll do like a couple more minutes. Let me just see how much there is left here. There's still a lot left. We're not going to finish this, but we'll just finish it. I'll stop here somewhere. Okay, 1 second. Okay, I guess we'll stop there, because I lost the place. So until I find it, it's going to be already too late. So next time we'll pick it up as a Hashem. Thanks for everybody for coming. Laila Tov, Chazak Baruch. Hope to see you tomorrow.
Thank you.
Learn more, rest well, and God bless you all.
Thank you.
Good night, Rabbi. God bless.
Have a good night, everybody. Nisim, you there, Nisim?
Yes, Rabbi, I'm here. How you doing? Have a good night, Rabbi.
Laila Tov, good to see you.
Laila Tov, toda rabba.